Hello everyone, Rahul here and welcome to our channel Doctors to Be. So guys, in the previous video, that is osteoporosis part 1, we discussed about the introduction of osteoporosis, osteopenia. We came under the pathogenesis, some of the it form two forms, senile and postmenopausal, and some of its causes. Today we shall discuss about the clinical course and morphology, and this is osteoporosis part 2. If you have not watched the previous video, that is osteoporosis part 1, please consider watching that so that you will have continuity and you understand the topic clearly. So I'll leave that link to that video, and also in the I button the video will be provided. So let's start today with clinical course. Osteoporosis and osteopenia. So for today's topic of discussion is clinical course. So clinical, okay, as you know, this is clinical course. Familiar, studying medicine, you must be familiar with this now. Okay, clinical course. That, so first point for it is vertebral fractures. Okay, vertical fractures that occur frequently. Vertical fractures due to the bone is osteoporosis perforated, it is weak. So, and while discussing about morphology, that we'll know that the affected bone is a histologically normal bone, but has decreased in quantity. So there are multiple vertebral fractures, okay, frequently occurring vertebral fractures that are painful, and frequent fractures make multiple fractures may lead to loss of height, lumbar lordosis, and kyphoscoliosis. Okay, so lumbar lordosis means the inward curve. Okay, suppose this inward cord of the lumbar spine, inward cord of the lumbar spine, and the other one is kyphoscoliosis, that is bending of the spine in two planes. Kyphosis means the bending in one plane, that is backwards, back to front, yes or no. Scoliosis means bending in one the other plane, that is the side to side. But kyphoscoliosis means bending in both planes, back and front, side to side. Okay, so we'll write about that. Frequent and multiple vertebral fractures are painful, and obviously they will be painful, and may result into may result into loss of height, lumbar lordosis. I just now explained what is this. This is the inward curve of the lumbar spine. Okay, lumbar lordosis and kyphoscoliosis. Okay, this is the bending of the spine, a curve of the spine in both planes. Okay, lumbar lordosis and kyphoscoliosis. So, and okay, this is the first point. The second point on our clinical course is that immobility. Okay, immobility after fractures of the femoral bone, pelvis, or the spine may result into pulmonary embolism. And while discussing, we have not discussed about the thromboembolism till now, but we will discuss about it in our upcoming videos. But you should know that thromboembolism, okay, so deep vein thrombosis is the main cause of pulmonary embolism. Okay, deep vein thrombosis is the main cause of the pulmonary embolism. Most of the 90%, about 90% of the pulmonary embolism is caused due to deep vein thrombosis. Okay, and femoral vein is also involved. So there is immobility and for thrombosis, long term bed rest or immobility also plays a role in development of thrombosis. So we'll discuss about these things while discussing about thrombosis. For now I just give the overview so that you understand better. So how immobility is causing into pulmonary embolism? What is that? The immobility due to fractures of the spine or due to the femoral bones. Okay, femur, spine, pelvis, this will cause immobility, prolonged bed rest. Okay, and this increases the chance of deep vein thrombosis. And I told that deep vein thrombosis is the major cause of pulmonary embolism, yes or no? So that's why immobility following fractures of the femur, pelvis, spine may cause into pulmonary embolism. Okay, so this all thing is the verification or explanation of this second point. Okay, how immobility is leading to thromboembolism. So immobility after fractures. Okay, immobility after fractures. Okay, fractures of spine. Usually in these fractures you get prolonged bed rest, yes or no? Spine, femur, pelvis, etc. may lead to pulmonary embolism. And how is this happening? Most important or most major cause of pulmonary embolism is deep vein thrombosis, and prolonged bed rest, immobility is one of the major cause, one of the cause contributing for the development of deep vein thrombosis. Okay, we'll discuss about this point while discussing about thromboembolism and thrombosis. So for now this much, so it will help you understand this point. And this osteoporosis, it cannot be detected by the normal radiograph or level of calcium and phosphorus. Okay, blood level of calcium and phosphorus, until and unless there is 30 to 40% of the bone loss. Okay, cannot be detected by the normal radiograph or the blood levels of calcium and phosphorus. So dual energy X-ray absorptiometry is used for detection. So let's write it. Can't be detected by normal. Is it quite rough or so sorry, I leave spaces. Can't be detected by normal radiograph or blood calcium and phosphorus levels. Okay, levels up to until there is 30 to 40% of loss of mass. Okay, so what can be the prevention and treatment for this disease? As we know, prevention, under prevention we regular exercise and calcium intake, proper calcium intake, and vitamin D, good vitamin D intake and vitamin D metabolism are factors that will help to prevent osteoporosis. They will indirectly or may directly also help to prevent osteoporosis, because these factors will help us to attain peak bone mass and also maintain bone resorption and bone formation. This will keep up bone resorption and bone formation preventing osteoporosis. Okay, so prevention, proper exercise, calcium and vitamin D intake, sorry, vitamin D intake can, now certainly it is certain that you cannot control the genes, so the things in our hand is the nutrition and the exercise. Okay, you cannot control the polymorphism of genes, so these are not under control. So proper exercise, calcium and vitamin D intake can prevent osteoporosis. Now we shall discuss about the treatment and morphology of osteoporosis. Now treatment, bisphosphonates and denosumab can be used for treatment. Okay, and these bisphosphonates, they decrease the osteoclastic activity and increase the apoptosis of the osteoclasts. Okay, so uh, denosumab and bisphosphonates nets can be used in treatment. Okay, and these what actually these things do is, denosumab is anti rank ligand. Okay, it is anti rank ligand, so blocks osteoclastic activity. On the other hand, bisphosphonates bisphosphonates, they decrease osteoclastic activity and increase apoptosis of osteoclasts. Okay, so they will so we can control the bone resorption. Osteoclastic, decrease in osteoclastic activity or apoptosis of the osteoclast will decrease the bone resorption, and somewhat we can control the osteoporosis. But main difficulty or complications with these therapies is we cannot uncouple bone formation and bone resorption cannot be uncoupled. We cannot just stop the bone resorption totally and increase bone formation. Okay, they cannot be uncoupled. So that's why there are certain complications. So now we shall come to the morphology. So morphology, a hallmark is histologically normal bone with decreased in bone quantity. Okay, normal bone which has decreased its quantity. Okay, and in postmenopausal form, what happens is the bones, postmenopausal osteoporosis, the bones that have increased surface area, example cancellous compartment of the vertebral bodies, these types of bones are much more affected. Okay, they are more impacted. So in postmenopausal hallmark, this is postmenopausal. Okay, in postmenopausal what happens, bones with increased surface area are more impacted. Okay, and trabecular plates. Okay, trabecular plates are perforated. They loose. There are loose interconnections. The interconnections are loose, which may lead to the microfractures, and eventually that may cause the vertebral collapse. Okay, so trabecular plates are perforated, which leads to microfractures and vertebral collapse. Okay, so let's discuss once again. Denosumab in treatment, we can use denosumab and denosumab and bisphosphonates can be used for treatment. Denosumab are anti-rank ligand and blocks the osteoclast. They are anti-rank ligand and they block the osteoclastic activity. While on the other hand, the bisphosphonates decrease or lower the osteoclastic activity. They lower the osteoclastic activity and increase the apoptosis of the osteoclasts. Okay, increase. Okay, these signs mean this is increase, this is decrease. So new viewers may be confused, even older viewers may get confused. Okay, so this is on treatment, and we discussed about the prevention earlier. So coming to the morphology, the hallmark of osteoporosis is histologically normal bone which has decreased. Okay, this is decreased in quantity. Okay, this has decreased is quantity. Histological normal bone which has decreased is quantity. Okay, in postmenopausal, so in postmenopausal what happens is postmenopausal osteoporosis, what is there is the bones with increased surface area. Okay, increased surface area like that of cancellous compartment of vertebral bodies are much more impacted than other types. Okay, on other bones. Okay, in postmenopausal forms of osteoporosis. And trabecular plates. Okay, trabecular plates are perforated, they become thin. Okay, they become thin, perforated, and which leading to microfractures and vertebral collapse. Okay, so this much to discuss under osteoporosis and osteopenia. We made total 2 videos. This is part 2 and we have already made part 1. So the link to the part 1 is given in the description and also in the info button. Info card, you can go and visit that and have a look. so that you will get a continuation and you will know properly about all the introduction, pathogenesis, the two forms, senile and postmenopausal forms, and in this video we have discussed about clinical course and morphology. So see you in the next videos. Till then, bye bye.